Tonight, the part of Chris Adams on the Cinefanatics will be played by Sean Chandler. Let's see if anyone recognizes that. What is going on, everyone? We are the Cinefanatics. My name is Robert Adams. This is the Tagline. It's a little 30 minutes later than usual, but we're still here to talk about some movies. Joining me tonight is our special guest. He's been here before. He is back again. It's always fun to talk about movies way too much with Mr. Sean Chandler. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. Am I muted?
No, you are not muted.
I got a warning that said that the host had muted me. I was like, what? What's going on? I'm muted. I was about to say, apparently we're fine. StreamYard just decided to go crazy on us. I'm good and happy to be here. And I'm happy not to be muted.
That's good, because when we invite you on the show, we want to hear you. You have thoughts, you have feelings, you have opinions.
I like that. I appreciate that.
That's what we do here on this channel is we invite people to come on and give their thoughts, feelings, and opinions, but we mute them so we can't actually hear those thoughts, feelings, and opinions. It just works out so much better that way.
for everyone. Just stay out of controversy. Keep everyone muted. No one can say anything.
You can't be canceled. You can't slip up and say something. You don't have to worry about that brain to mouth filter. It's none of that. Just all taken care of.
Perfect.
That's great. Guys, y'all know how this works. Top of the show. If y'all have any questions, comments, issues, complaints, streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Drop those in there. We will read those as those come in. Also, patreon.com/cinefanatics. We've only got 2 tiers, $1 tier and $5 tier. If you feel like we are worth supporting and you have the means, please feel free to hop on a tier that is good for you. The $1 tier gets you access to our Discord. The $5 tier will get you access to our monthly hangouts. Speaking of which, next Wednesday, the 16th, after the Tagline, we will be doing our monthly Patreon watch along. It is my brother's birthday this Saturday, so because it is his birthday, he has chosen that watch along. We will be doing Nacho Libre, which I have never seen. I'm a big Napoleon Dynamite fan, but I've never watched Nacho Libre, and he's been trying to get me to watch it forever. So finally going to have to sit down and watch it this next Wednesday. So I actually am looking forward to it. So I like Jack Black. I like Jared Hess. And again, Napoleon Dynamite was really good. So looking forward to a little more of that. It is streaming on Amazon Prime as of right now. So if you have Amazon Prime, come join us. It'll be fun. The next hangout is going to be August 30th after Tagline. That is going to be our trivia hangout. It's just going to be general trivia, no actual theme, just random movie trivia questions. Come hang out and see how well you do. Test your knowledge against everyone else who's playing. It's going to be a lot of fun. I write the trivia questions myself, so you don't have to worry about taking on me. Not that I'm the best of movie trivia. Anyways, beside the point. Only other thing to talk about here is coming up on August 25th. We are doing the marquee this month. The marquee it's 15 or 16 movies that my brother picked. It's not necessarily his favorites, but it is movies that he really likes. We're just going to go and tier rank those. So if you are on at least the $1 Patreon, you can go to the Discord, hop on that marquee channel and see the list of movies that we will be tier ranking. And yeah, go watch those, and then you can come join us in the chat and rank them as well. You have a vote live. So that will be August 25th, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Otherwise, yeah. Sean, over the past week, have you watched any new movies?
So I have. And by new, it wasn't new at all, but it was new to me. Coming up in a few months, we have a new Martin Scorsese film. And on my channel, I'm known for ranking things. I've never ranked all of Martin Scorsese's films. I've also never seen all of Martin Scorsese's films.
Oh.
So this is one it's been on my radar for a long time, trying to find the right window of time. Looks like 2023 is the year for that to happen. So kicked off the journey to watch through all of his films with Shutter Island, which I'd never seen before.
Did you know? So that's one of those that is famous for having a twist ending. Did you know the ending to it beforehand?
No, but I don't know if it's just that maybe I'd heard something at some point in time that I had a feeling where things were going from the get-go. I don't know if some of that is simply because if for 13 years, you hear people saying, "Oh, it's got a twist ending. No one sees it coming. It's got a twist ending. It's got a twist ending."
So now
you're just immediately spending time pondering with the scenario set up. What could this be?
Yeah.
So I kind of knew where things were headed. I wasn't sure
Okay.
exactly how it would play out. What was going to happen? What was real? What was not? What was conspiracy? Who was a part of what? See, I didn't have tons of specificity, but I definitely had a pretty good idea where it was headed.
Oh, look who's joining us in the chat. Yeah, Chris, you look a lot like Sean Chandler. Has anyone ever told you that? Yeah, and then Jeremy Miller's also saying that Chris's new setup looks great. So
lots of colorful mood lighting.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to work on here in my setup. Obviously, I'm in my bedroom because for like years everyone has seen this angle on me and know that my bed is right here behind me. So in a tiny little apartment, don't have much room. Our entire living room is our actual normal set that both me and my brother typically do, like trailer reactions and movie reviews and our podcast. Whenever we were doing those, that's where we typically do that. So that's our entire living room. We don't have a normal functional living room, so it works. It's fine for what we do.
Well, and what you got right there, I mean, the power of just lighting on a wall, it looks cool. Like, it's simple, but it looks cool.
I got tired of like just the plain, like generic, like 80s apartment wall that's behind me. So that's why I went and got like these backdrops or whatever, hung them up, and I actually think they look really good. So
yeah, it's simple, but it looks good.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, man, I can't believe you're sitting through having to do all of the Scorsese movies. That's gonna be a fun watch.
I don't know if fun is the word, but probably a good watch.
Have you seen King of Comedy before?
Mm-mm.
That was a lot of fun.
There's a ton of first time watches in here. It's all the time people are like, "Oh, why isn't Scorsese one of your favorite directors?" Probably just because I haven't seen enough of his films.
Yeah.
And those directors, you just kind of missed them, or you never went fully down that path. And then next thing you know, you're in your 30s and you just want movies that are escape from the brutal reality of life, not movies that make you confront you with the dramatic tension of reality. So I've just missed a lot of them. And so this is one of the ones I've been excited about. I actually bought, I was going to point as if you could see on my shelf right there. Right here behind this light is a stack of books. And I bought like 2 different books on Scorsese and another one. And then I have Quentin Tarantino has a book where he kind of talks through some movies, and he's got some talks about Scorsese in there. So I'm trying to do do it proper, full deep dive on Scorsese over the next few months, and then watched Taxi Driver last night. So I wrote my dissertation this morning on how relevant it is today as it was when they first made it nearly 50 years ago. The plight of lonely men without purpose and meaning in their life, channeling their passions in all the wrong directions.
Well, I did it in the right direction. I created a YouTube channel where I could talk about movies.
There you go. Exactly.
I feel like you're familiar with this concept, with the exception of the lonely man part of this, since happily married with kids.
Well, but I've had my fair share of lonely windows too. So currently, maybe that's not where I'm at, but I've absolutely been down that path and totally get it.
Yeah. Anyways, another thing, so for me, real quick, movies I've watched over this past week, I finally caught up. A lot of these are movies that my brother's been trying to get me to watch. The Nice Guys, decided after the success of Barbie, decided to dive into another one that a lot of people are saying that is Ryan Gosling's like best performance. So I watched The Nice Guys. I watched Room, not The Room. That's a completely different movie that is tearing me apart, Lisa. But yeah, watch.
It's a fun one if you pick the wrong film there.
Yeah.
Right along with, was it 28 Days versus 28 Days Later? Yeah. Another fun one to pick the wrong film.
The Sandra Bullock versus the Cillian Murphy zombie movie. Yeah, absolutely. And then I just got out of, like 30, 45 minutes ago, I had just gotten out of seeing Talk to Me. Talk to Me, like real quick, I thought Talk to Me was actually pretty decent. The trailer was super confusing. I had no idea what was going on. And it just looked like it was a bunch of kids like sitting there messing around with all the spiritual crap that they should not be messing with. That any person with common sense would be like, oh, it's a hand of someone who used to be like a psychic medium. Hell no, I'm not touching that. Just nope. But I like how they dived into it a lot more than I thought it was going to be. The thing I like that I hate about a lot of, especially like these kind of like horror movies that we get coming out a lot right now, there's a strong air of mystery about them. And you don't know exactly what's going on or how it's going to resolve itself. And the problem that I see a lot of horror movies get with that is if they don't get to explaining it, you lose your audience.
Yeah.
And this one, I don't like the way that they're talking through it. Like throughout this movie, there's different portions where they're like, well, you could resolve everything if you do this. Well, okay, well, you actually would solve the problem if you do this. And like they put these little tidbits in there that are holding your attention, but they're not immediately answering what all's actually going on.
No.
And I like that about this. And I definitely can see like where they could be leading for like a sequel, or I guess it's going to be a prequel.
I think that they said they've already filmed it. They're pulling a Pearl.
It sounds like an X and Pearl thing that Ty West has done. So they may go back and do. I believe they're going to tell the story of the dude at the beginning
prologue,
of the movie. They're going to go back and talk about his story and what led up to the beginning of this movie. And then possibly maybe I actually want to see what happens after this movie, where this movie ends up leaving us. I want to see how that goes from there, because that seems like that could be an interesting story now that we follow these characters in this movie throughout this movie and we understand like their points of view and what they're trying to do.
I like the trailers looked super generic.
Yeah.
But it was A24, which A24 is not super generic. And so I was like, okay, is this just a marketing thing? And on the one hand, the movie does have a setup that is like a lot of these movies where young people screw around with a doodad and then they're followed by death or something. Like that side to it. It's true. It's familiar, but the movie itself feels very different from any of those movies. And I don't. It's an Australian film that A24 acquired to distribute, and it feels so Australian. It feels different, and it reminded me of just. It made all these Hollywood movies feel generic. Like you can see seeing something different shows you the way all these ones over here just feel the same, and they have the same sound. They have the same way. Yeah, Boogeyman. Like right, exactly. Of like. It's well done, but it just feels like, haven't we done this before? The way they do music, the way characters talk to each other, the way they're all in like generic America, that they just don't, nothing about them is specific or different or interesting. Maybe they're well produced. Maybe they do something well. And then you watch this one and just the fact that it feels Australian, it's not trying to fit into the Hollywood slick mold, just made it pop and gave it more personality and made it a lot creepier.
Yeah. I think the other thing I really liked about this is I didn't know anything about the Raka Raka guys, the Filippo twins. I didn't know anything about them before. So I went to go watch this today at Alamo Drafthouse. Alamo Drafthouse is very famous for not showing the very stereotypical newbie segments at the beginning of the movie while people are coming into the theater, sitting down, ordering their food and waiting for the movie to start. So no Maria Menounos or Perry Nemiroff before this one, but Alamo does do like little segments that are something like somewhat related to the movie. This one was showing like a couple of clips from the Raka Raka videos, and then also like interviews and stuff with the twins, the directors, and specifically one video that was showing like when they found out that their movie that Talk to Me got selected for Sundance, and just the excitement of them running around telling their family and all the crew and everything. That was just so much fun. Like you saw pure joy on their face. And I was like, that's got to be fun to have a passion to create something and see it blow up like that. Like that's amazing. And yeah, so I feel like seeing that before the movie gave me a better feeling of like, okay, get into this movie because these are two guys who are really passionate, really happy, and really excited that I get to see their movie, that I get to sit in the seat and watch their movie on a big screen. So yeah, I think that kind of maybe helped with like, I like this movie.
Right. Well, and I think even the way you described that, like, it's the passion project of a couple guys that are literally YouTubers, and what they're excited about, what they're trying to pull into it, not a big studio with a bunch of producers that have like, well, this is what the market wants. Well, the market is looking for this. It's not that. It's actually some people trying to tell something that they find scary and interesting. I've been reading a book, and by read, I mean listen to, because I read with my ears, Burn It Down. And it's all about how kind of all the corruption in Hollywood, all the different types of the nepotism, sexism, racism, all the isms, but then just in general, also the way that jerks don't get held accountable for stuff. Mm-hmm. And they just start talking about how some of these people get in power that they don't even like movies. They just love power. And for whatever reason, there are these jobs. And you start to realize just how many Hollywood projects really are lifeless, and all the ways that there's the higher ups suck the life out of all the creatives in the process. And then, so when you watch something like Talk to Me, that doesn't feel like that. Yeah. That feels like these are people that were excited to make a movie, and they made a movie. And it doesn't feel like it was market tested to play to the broadest audience. And so it doesn't do anything. You have to shave away anything that might be off-putting to a certain audience. Well, they've got Australian accents. Well, let's overdub them. Let's dial back the accents so that it plays better and more. No, it doesn't do anything like that. It just tells an authentic, true story. So, I don't know. It's very much between the books I'm listening to and some other things going on and the strikes that we'll be talking about in the near future, whatever. It's just like putting some of the Hollywood in a bad taste in my mouth right now. Just the generic overproduced stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of listening to books, if you like listening to books, this episode is sponsored by Audible. No, just kidding. You can drop a link down below. Anyway, actually, what you've done that you've actually had Audible sponsorships, I believe.
Well, so they're actually affiliate links. It's their podcast program, actually, what it is. But yeah, I do that all the time. Anytime a movie is based off of a book, if you want to listen to the book for free, listen to the way that I do. Check it out right here. And then likewise, like whenever I finish this Burn It Down, I don't know, I might do a review of it. I might want to talk about it. Right there, talk about it. If you want to listen to it yourself, there it is right down below.
Do it on Audible. Yeah. Or podcast type of, yeah. I used to do that back in the 90s when I would read books instead of just watching movies. I did tend to read a lot of the books that were eventually turned into movies. Like I loved the book of Jurassic Park. It's very different from the movie. I think the book was a lot better, but it was a lot more sciencey. A Time to Kill was probably one of my favorite books because I actually really loved the movie. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do like those, the books that the movies are based on. Eventually, when I find time again, maybe I'll get back into that because that was really nice to do. But
and the other fun one is there's a handful of books that are just great about the making of certain movies or certain franchises. Mm-hmm. So there's like a great book about the making of the Halloween movies that I listened to that leading up to while I listened to each chapter after I rewatched each movie, and it just makes it like this much more holistic perspective on what you just watched. And even though some of them get pretty generic or whatever, it's just the story behind the story makes it really interesting. Like when you're looking at like Halloween H2O and what went on at the end of that movie, and then why did they come back, and like why did we kill off? What are we doing here? Mm-hmm. There's the whole story about how everyone hated that idea except for the guy that had all the power, who wants to keep making Halloween movies because that's how he pays his bills. So they did an ending that no one wanted except the guy that makes all the money.
Yeah. So that being said, if you like listening to stuff like books, Raycon is a sponsor of, no, just kidding. Anyways, let's get into, well, before we get into some of the movie news, the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick, especially since you're here, last year you went to Fantastic Fest, which is here in Austin. Mm-hmm. And this is something that like I've been to South by before. South by is a lot of fun. but I've never been to Fantastic Fest, and I am kicking myself for not going last year. Now, the problem with that, the reason I'm kicking myself, of course, is that whole hindsight is 2020. There was a massive amount of really good movies or highly anticipated movies that premiered at Fantastic Fest last year.
And 2019 was the same thing.
Oh,
2019, they had Parasite, Knives Out, Jojo Rabbit. And so like they had 3 Oscar. Well, I mean, last year they did too. Both years they had, and then they didn't have it 2020 and 2021. They didn't really have the full festival, COVID. But yeah, I mean, they really get, it's not as high profile as these other ones, but they get, for that same reason, they have a higher batting average, I think, of like interesting big releases. And then if you're into the genre stuff, I mean, they had Terrifier 2.
That was the one that I was like, oh, I want to go to the premiere with like the director and the cast.
Yeah, all of the cast was there. They didn't have the lead girl; she wasn't available, but they had Sienna. Yeah, they didn't have Sienna. The Art the Clown was there. Jericho was there. Chris Jericho was there, and like I'm just standing in the hallway after the movie, and this guy bumps into me, and I turn around, and he's posing to take a picture with something. It's Chris Jericho. He's just like hanging out in the lobby. But anyway, I'm cutting you off. I'm probably getting my hustle. You didn't ask me a question yet.
Oh, so yeah. What is your experience with Fantastic Fest?
Yeah.
Besides bumping into Chris Jericho.
But yeah,
you bumped into Chris Jericho. He didn't bump into you.
Right. Exactly.
Excuse me. What the hell do you think? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So I've attended in person 3 times. I went in 2017. And that was a pretty bad experience. There was a variety of things that just was like a perfect storm of somewhat where I was at as a person, but also a couple days before the festival started. This was the fall of Me Too.
Oh yeah,
and some of it there was allegations towards Alamo Drafthouse, and then Harry Knowles.
Yep.
Of Ain't It Cool News, who's like was a major part of Fantastic Fest until that year. And so a couple of movies dropped out. Ebbing, 310 Ebbing, what is the
310 Yuma?
No.
Billboards.
Three Billboards. Three Billboards.
Yeah.
3 Billboards was supposed to be the opening movie, and they pulled out right before it started. And so then the first 2 days were kind of soft. And then there's some other just weird stuff that went down. They like just made some bad choices that went compounded with the allegations. It was a very awkward, uncomfortable environment. So I didn't go in 2018. And then I went again in 2019, and it was great, fantastic, per the name. And then last year again is fantastic. But yeah, most years, so it's a genre film festival. So they're playing horror movies, action movies, martial arts movies, samurai movies. And then they'll have Oscar contenders there, but you're gonna get, it's not just art house films.
Yeah,
you will they'll have like schlocky action movies that are just insanely violent. And then you'll have Terrifier 2, and then you'll have Banshees of Inisherin. It's like that. Legitimately, that could be your double feature for the night.
Yeah,
and then they do secret screenings. And they're not always fantastic. Sometimes they miss the ball. But in 2019, one of them was The Lighthouse.
Ooh. Okay.
So that, for me, actually wasn't that exciting. But for everyone else, it was super exciting. Like
that was a movie that you need to watch a couple of times.
And when I hadn't seen his previous film, and so like I just saw this picture. I was like, oh, what is Robert Pattinson? Like, look at old timey. And so I didn't know what I was getting in for. But then like last year it was the world premiere of the 2 secret screenings, the world premiere of Werewolf by Night from the MCU. We were the first people to see an MCU project, which actually played horribly in that room. And then Hellraiser, the new Hellraiser, premiered at Fantastic Fest. But so people go to Fantastic Fest to avoid Marvel products, Disney products. Yeah. And so you're in a room anywhere else in the world. You get to be the world premiere of an MCU thing. People are like, yeah. They say, oh, we're going to do, who's excited for Werewolf by Night? Half the room booed. Because we're like something that is supposed to be incredibly cool. It was very well reviewed. And if it wasn't from Disney, this room would have really dug it. But it was from Disney. And that's literally, they go to Fantastic Fest to get away from Disney. And then Disney. It was the world premiere of Smile. That was the opening night last year, was Smile. World premiere. The cast, everything, walked the red carpet right in the lobby of this movie
South
theater.
Lamar. Yeah.
South Lamar, Alamo Drafthouse, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. So I've got passes for it this year, so I'm looking forward to going and seeing like what this is all about. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so the basic vibe, it's all at one theater. So that's, in my mind, I haven't really been to other film festivals, really. I've been to Movies Associated, but I haven't really attended another one. But they're all at different theaters. And so just because someone is attending the film festival doesn't mean you'll see them. This is all at one theater. You're all just between movies standing in the lobby. So I'm just standing there. Multiple times I turn around and there's this guy behind me with glasses on. It's Scott Derrickson. Doctor Strange, Black Phone. He's just standing there waiting for his next movie. We get out of seeing Banshees of Inisherin. They do the big gigantic or not big gigantic. I don't know why I added superlatives onto this. They do a Q&A afterwards. An epic Q&A afterwards. And so once it ends, we all go to the bathroom. There's still just one bathroom there. The director needs to go to the bathroom. So we're standing there, and Neil McDonough, that's it, the dark director of Banshees. I think I'm switching with the actor. That's
McDonald. Yeah, you got McDonald right.
Part of that, so makes the chat know what I'm talking about. Anyway, director of Banshees and a bunch of other big, gigantic movies. He's just standing there in the bathroom with us, and he's like, walks up to the urinal, and someone puts their arm around him, like, "Hey, man, love the movie." Like, buddy, he's peeing right now.
I'm trying to pee. Do you mind?
Yes, give him a little space. He's right here. You can wait till he's done. But you're just standing there with everybody else, and then you mentioned like
Martin McDonald.
Martin, there we go. Martin. Neil's the actor. Martin is the director. Yeah. But you mentioned Perry Nemiroff. Last I heard, she doesn't know if she's going. She's trying really hard to go this year, and so
I've been wanting to meet her, and I keep like missing her.
If she's able to make it, you'll meet her there. Both in 2019 and 2022, Chris Stuckman was there. So after I watched Terrifier 2, I'm talking with him in the lobby, and but everyone's just standing there. Ryan Johnson normally attends. Even if he doesn't have a movie playing, he'll just be in attendance for a few days, and he'll just be standing in the hallway. And it's unlike if you go on the internet, it's a bunch of lunatics that want to yell at him. Comic-Cons, people freaking out, want to meet him. But this is just a bunch of people that love movies. And they kind of respect that he's just a dude. And yeah, people are talking to him, but it's all chill and cool. So it's a pretty cool environment as long as you're not in 2017.
Nice. As of right now, we don't know what movies are going to be playing. They have yet to release the schedule. I'm guessing a part of that may be because of the strikes, and very likely a lot of the actors aren't going to be able to attend to help promote or support this movie. So we may see a lack of celebrities as far as like who's in the movie. Very likely the directors will still show up. Other people, obviously.
In 2017, Thomas Jayne, the Punisher, bumped into me.
Nice. No, you bumped into him.
In this case, that's true. It was kind of weird because he's one of, like, I got into weightlifting and stuff, tried to look like the Punisher back in the day. I'm significantly taller than him and much bigger than him. It's like, I'm pretty sure I could beat the Punisher in a fight. This is a weird moment in my life. Wow.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. So I don't know if I'm going to do some kind of like vlog content. I don't know how possible that is, but I was thinking about doing something outside of like, hey, I watched a movie, here's my review. Hey, I watched a movie, here's my review. I might do something else just for fun of just hanging around, first time going to Fantastic Fest. So I'll see if I come up with anything, and we'll probably announce that later. We do need to get into some movie news, so let's jump into that real quick.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. This is what's happening in your world tonight.
We apologize for the interruption.
Back to you.
All right, so typically we kick this off with talking about the weekend box office numbers. My brother's generally the one who does it, but I'm going to be doing that tonight. Guess what's number one in the box office after this weekend? It would be Barbie. It crossed $1 billion worldwide. I believe, was that the first movie this year to cross $1 billion? Or
Super Mario.
Super Mario. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Super Mario hit it already. But Barbie did it very fast. It's not the fastest movie to hit $1 billion worldwide. I can't remember what movie that was.
I think it's Endgame.
Endgame? Yeah, did it in just
3
under
days.
2 weeks.
No, I think it did. I think it did it just about 3 days because it just opened so epic everywhere. Just such enormous.
Yeah, Barbie's the one that did it in just under 2 weeks. Yeah, okay, so Endgame did it in 3 days. That's insane.
Don't quote me on that, but it did it like something that was bonkers fast because it was just unprecedented, enormous numbers.
Yeah. Other ones. So this is what I thought was weird. Number 2 this weekend was Meg 2: The Trench. Number 3 was Oppenheimer, and then number 4 was Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
Yeah.
I thought that there was a good chance that Ninja Turtles and Barbie would be fighting for that pole position.
But Paramount shot themselves in the foot. They opened the movie on Wednesday. So So then they lost the opening day bump, which is both the front end loaded excitement plus the preview screenings. You get that day that's essentially a day and a half on your first day. And so Ninja Turtles actual, if they had opened on Friday, might have been around $40 million.
Well, that's what it did. That's what it's done so far.
Exactly.
Total was 43 million.
So then it probably would have been much closer, like 5 million, 6 million above the numbers that we saw over the weekend. So it would have beaten the Meg.
Yeah.
If they had done a normal release, but they didn't, in which case it looks lower than it actually was, while it's still it was a $75 million film, so it's decent. Meg cost twice that. But the thing about the Meg is designed for international markets. Even the star of the movie, it's Jason Statham, but it also stars Wu Jing,
one of the most famous Chinese actresses in China.
Actor. They switched out the person. It's not the lady that was in the first one.
Oh, okay.
They brought in this guy that is exactly what you just said. He's like the biggest action star in China. He directed and starred in Wolf Warrior 2 that made $1 billion just a few years back. No one in the United States has seen the movie where you don't know who this guy is. And so if you watch the US trailers, it's Jason Statham, and this guy in the background. If you watch the trailers that they cut for China, it's always him. It's him with Statham. Did you watch the Meg 2?
I haven't seen it yet, no.
So it's interesting because if you're watching it and you don't realize what's going on, you think that they're setting this one guy up to be you saw the first Meg?
Yes.
It feels like they're setting up the Wu Jing character to be the Rainn Wilson character of this movie. So this dummy that's just ridiculous, that's going to get killed off. And then very soon afterwards, you realize they're just setting up the American action hero and the Chinese action hero. And very soon into the movie, you have these scenes that are cut in ways to show that they're parallels, showing how each of them are irresponsible, but they're irresponsible in different ways. And then you keep having, every time something's about to go wrong, one of them solves it through his heroic way, and the other one is equally important in solving it through his heroic ways.
Weird.
And so it has 2 leads to it. But in the United States, you would think it's a Jason Statham vehicle, which it is, but it's also a Wu Jing vehicle for China. And so the movie made 3 times as much money outside of the United States as it made in the United States. It's a massive hit internationally, and it's it did okay here in the US. 30 million, that's not too bad. Yeah. Fascinating. That's just fascinating to me, the way that works out.
What I like about this is, so Barbie made 53 million, Meg 2 made 30 million, Oppenheimer did 29, and Ninja Turtles did 28. 2, 3, and 4 were 30, 29, 28. It was such a close race for those. Number 5 on the weekend was Haunted Mansion at 9 million. Your leap from the number 5 position at 9 million to number 4 is 28. That is such a huge leap in the percentage of growth between those numbers. So yeah, that's weird, and it's
I
gonna be
don't.
interesting to see how those hold on next weekend.
I didn't see the. I don't remember the exact what the statistic was, but I saw something about how long it's been since the last time we had 4 movies make over 25 million. And I don't remember what the number, but it was like you stop think like that's a really healthy weekend. That's a lot of movies doing really well. And then especially look at them, 2 of them are movies in their 3rd weekends. Some of the projections for Oppenheimer where this movie's going to open at 30 million. That's where some of the projections were at, and that's
Yeah.
its 3rd weekend. And it's now like you look at it, Barbie's the highest grossing comedy of all time. Now, it's the highest grossing movie from a woman of all time. And then Oppenheimer is the highest grossing World War II film of all time. And all of that in just over 2 weeks. 3 weekends, 2 weeks. And you go, that's wild. And Oppenheimer was supposed to be a Warner Brothers movie. But because Warner Brothers ran off Nolan, Universal got it instead. And just go, man, Warner Brothers, you could have had all the glory there. You just had to burn your bridges with your creatives.
And a lot of people, and I tend to believe this, a lot of people say that the whole Barbenheimer experience really helped Oppenheimer's numbers as well. For example, I did do the double feature. It was actually my second double feature of this year. My first being the Sisu and Evil Dead Rise. So yeah, that was my second. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to do the Saw Patrol double feature. That one just no. I'll see Saw. Very likely, I'll go see Saw. Very likely, Saw is probably actually going to premiere at Fantastic Fest. Is what I would guess.
I would not be surprised if that happened.
Yeah, it does actually release wide on the last day of Fantastic Fest this year, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's like the movie that opens Fantastic Fest. So,
that's you wonder how they do this with press screenings, since those are movies that tend to not always get a ton of press screening because they just don't play great to critics. So I just wonder if that's what they'll do, is they'll just play it to core audience, the people going to Fantastic Fest. Maybe Tobin Bell won't be able to be in the room probably, but
that's sad.
That's if it actually was the opening movie and Tobin Bell's not able to be there, that would suck. But very possible they would do that, or maybe they don't do any press screenings, but it's one of the secret screenings.
Yeah,
there's a couple options on the table but I would not be surprised at all if that made an appearance. And then like they played Halloween 2018, played at Fantastic Fest. So Exorcist. Another one's on the table.
I believe Exorcist is going to play. I believe this year they're going to do Exorcist will probably be on there. I also believe probably Five Nights at Freddy's would probably be on there. I wouldn't put it past Blumhouse to want to push for some kind of a festival screening for that, given the hype that it has coming off of the video game. So those I'm pretty much, I feel like, are a sure bet for this year. So rounding out the top 10 real quick. Number 6 was Sound of Freedom. Number 7 is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Number 8 was Talk to Me, which I'm sad. That needs to be higher. Number 9 was Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. And number 10 is Elemental. Insidious, The Red Door just fell out of the top 10 this past weekend. So
I think is it the highest grossing Insidious film? It either is or it's very close to being the highest grossing Insidious film, which is crazy to me.
Yet to watch any of the Insidious movies. I'm barely through any of the Conjuring movies, so those two will be the ones that I need to really go back and.
So the first Insidious in particular feels like the demo reel for The Conjuring. Patrick Wilson is the star in both of them.
Yeah.
The characters aren't nearly as interesting, but there's this interesting idea about astral projection that it's just different from any other movie like that. From there, they're fine.
Yeah, Lego here. Five Nights at Freddy's will be no Willy's Wonderland. Willy's Wonderland was a lot of fun, and that was definitely a movie like Willy's Wonderland and Lego. I don't know if you've seen this, or Sean, if you've seen it, the Banana Splits movie. Mm-mm. So there was a Sid and Marty Krofft. You know who Sid and Marty Krofft are? They did Land of the Lost back in the day. Not the movie, not the Will Ferrell movie, but the actual TV show. Mm-hmm. They did another TV program called The Banana Splits, which is basically like Barney. It's characters in a costume playing with the kids for kids. Well, because Five Nights at Freddy's was dragging its feet to go into production, everyone else was scooping up other like-minded type of movies. So they took the actual Banana Splits property that was a real IP and they turned it into a horror movie. And it's the same characters. Like, it is the Banana Splits, but they're now a horror movie. And it's really weird. It's a fun movie. It's very schlocky. It is corny. It is gory. But yeah, it's a fun movie. Willy's Wonderland, of course, with Nicolas Cage, who doesn't say a word, which is a waste of Nicolas Cage. I feel like Lego would agree with me on that. She is a big Nicolas Cage fan as well. But yeah, like those movies were movies that were made because Five Nights at Freddy's was just taking so long. Now that we're finally going to get Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm actually looking forward to it, but I don't know if it's going to be like Willy's Wonderland. Willy's Wonderland was a lot of fun. So
yeah, my son really wants to see Five Nights at Freddy's. We haven't even let him play the video game. He's still just obsessed. So now he wants to play the video game. He wants to watch the movie. And then my sister is already like, for the first time ever, she's like, I need to reserve a spot for Five Nights at Freddy's. I need you to take my son to see Five Nights at Freddy's. She's never reserved a spot for one of her kids before at a press screening, but my sister did that for Five Nights at Freddy's. So I'm curious how that's going to, because like I'm totally detached from the Five Nights at Freddy's craze. Like I'm aware of its existence, but like I'm totally detached from it.
I never played it. I've watched YouTubers play it. Like I watched Markiplier play it because he's just really good on his reactions. He's got a very deep voice, so when he gets jump scared, he reacts very type of thing, and it's just really funny to watch him react to it. He's so expressive on it. That was really the only time I've like really knew anything about Five Nights at Freddy's. So I'm excited for the movie, even though I don't play the game.
Yeah, but
I've seen enough of it to understand the concept. So. Lego saying, I do not agree. A silent Nick Cage is great. I actually wish the character had been deaf. So moving on next, the other big piece of movie news that came out over this past week is a friend of the show, Jeff Snyder, dropped a bunch of Fantastic Four casting. So according to him, from what I've been able to piece together, and also like in the days since, because this has been a big topic for a very long time.
Yeah.
But it looks like the way that they were talking is for Sue Storm is locked in for Vanessa Kirby, coming off of Dead Reckoning Part 1. Johnny Storm, you've got Joseph Quinn, who was Eddie Munson in Stranger Things, and who I believe is also going to be in the Gladiator sequel coming out pretty soon. And then those are like the ones that it really seems like are kind of a lock. I know like people were talking about Jack Quaid possibly playing Johnny Storm, but he posted on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called that he's not actually going to be in it. So that may be just trying to push it away, like Andrew Garfield. No, I'm not in Spider-Man No Way Home. Or it may be true and he's just not doing it. I do like his tweet, though, that he was like, hey, now that you're here reading my tweet, please feel free to go support the strikes and stuff. So I like how he pivoted in his tweet on that. It was a lot of fun. The other ones looks like they're all pretty much rumors still. It sounds like Reed Richards was going to be down between Matt Smith. Adam Driver apparently is still on the table for it. And Dev Patel is on the short list. I'm not a huge Matt Smith fan. Like most of the movies I've seen him in, I just really haven't liked. Morbius and Terminator Genesis. I did like him in, was it Last Night in Soho? I thought he was good in that. But I don't watch Doctor Who, so I'm not that familiar with a lot of his stuff. Adam Driver has been off and on. I think he was interested and then not, and now apparently they're trying to bring him back in again. And Dev Patel's a choice. I don't mind it, but it's definitely a choice to have. Don't know like how you feel about any of those so far.
Yeah, I feel like Sue Storm and Reed Richards are kind of, they're not big, gigantic personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like any great actor could feel, like, yeah, I like Vanessa Kirby. I want her to have more roles. Yeah, she's got momentum. So when you have momentum, you get cast in the next big superhero movie. So sure, why not? I can see it. It's pretty easy to see her as Sue Storm. Sure. Reed Richards. All these names feel kind of weird to me, kind of strange to me. I mean, Adam Driver. Sure. Okay. I think Reed Richards is inherently, even because of his powers, is kind of a cartoonish look to him. I feel like Adam Driver kind of has a cartoonish look to him that, I don't know, maybe that fits. Matt Smith, I know him primarily from House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, Morbius and Terminator Jenny Smith are not the best. Like, the movies are the problem there, not
necessarily
the individuals.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. It feels like one of those people that they're always trying to cast him in the big franchises, even Doctor Who, Terminator, Sony Spider-Verse universe, Game of Thrones, and now MCU. Like, I mean, even in Morbius ties over to the MCU with Vulture. It's like, even what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So I don't know about that. Joseph Quinn. I think Johnny Storm has a much more distinct personality that you have to capture. But and I only really know him as Eddie Munson. But what I know is that he connected with people as Eddie Munson in a very unique way. He joined in the 4th season in an already crowded show. Doesn't, in a lot of senses, doesn't have a ton of screen time, considering how much people love him. Then again, the episodes are all 4 hours long, so he probably has 7 hours of screen time across the 40 hours of season 4 of that show. But, limited screen time. But, I went to Fan Expo New Orleans, and he had the photo booth was right next to the stage that I was on. And anytime they called his name for people to take pictures, you just hear crowds of people freaking out. And then I'm walking back to my hotel with my family, and this lady's walking with her 2 kids, and one of her daughters is just sobbing. Just, I'm like, what is wrong with your weird daughter? She's like, she met Eddie Munson 30 minutes ago. She's still crying. She hasn't stopped crying. She says she's never going to wash her hand. Like,
is the Beatles or like
right,
Elvis or what?
Exactly. I mean, exactly. Exactly. It's like the joke about the fangirling of the over-the-top reactions that you apply to 1960s rock stars.
Yeah.
And they're doing that for Eddie Munson, who is in his own way a rock star and totally nailed master of puppets.
I was going to say, I mean, both you and I, basically, we just need to go like stand on top of a trailer park house and blast and shred Master of Puppets. And like, we'll just see our YouTube channels grow even more. So yeah, apparently that's where we're lacking here.
But, and then, I mean, I did here in Austin at the Cinemark 20 in Pflugerville, they hosted the Fantastic Best Day, hosted Stranger Things Day, where they showed volume 2 of season 4. And packed theater. I was the host for the event, and it was a costume contest. Half the people in the room were Eddie Munson. Wow. 50-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 20-year-olds, boys, girls, everything, and everyone was dressed as Eddie Munson or 11. But 11's the star of the show for 4 seasons.
Yeah.
He's like the side character in 1 season, and people fell in love with him. And when an actor can do that, there's something to that. Of course, some of it's the writing, the right things that are just special, but he connected with people. So if Kevin Feige thinks he could be Johnny Storm, I'll trust him until he drops the ball. We'll see what happens.
I do see that he could possibly pull off the same kind of Johnny Storm that Chris Evans did in the 05 and 07 Fantastic Four movies. So I foresee that's possible, that's doable. So the other ones on here that are rumors, apparently Ebon Moss-Backrack is being rumored for either Doctor Doom or Silver Surfer. And then apparently Antonio Banderas is rumored for Galactus, which I'm kind of apprehensive about jumping in and doing a Fantastic Four movie, and then also jumping in and doing the whole Silver Surfer and the Coming of Galactus storyline. I feel like we really need to just nail the Fantastic Four first, because we haven't gotten them right 100%. The 05 movie, I think, was probably the closest, but like we need to get them perfect first and then introduce Silver Surfer and Galactus.
You're forgetting the awesome 1994 Roger Corman produced.
I am not, because it was actually much better than Fan Four State. So
I remember in the early 90s, my sister and I would ride our bikes to a comic shop, and I'd get Wizard magazine every month.
Yep.
And the Wizard magazine would have articles about comics coming out, and then comic movies coming out, which there weren't very many at the time, very few. And so I read articles about this Fantastic Four movie they were making, and they had set photos and the costumes. 30 years later, the movie hasn't come out. I've seen it, of course, but it's never been released.
Yeah, it's been bootlegged. I mean, for a while, the only place you could get it is if you went to a comic book convention and someone had made copies on VHS tapes sitting on their fold-out table at their booth, and that was it. Now, thanks to the internet, you could probably find it all over the place. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually in some hidden pocket of YouTube somewhere. So,
I don't think it's even a hidden pocket. I think it's pretty. I think that's why I've watched it, because like, who cares? It's never going to be released.
Yeah. And then so I don't know the Silver Surfer Galactus storyline. I'm not sure how I feel about that so far. I love Silver Surfer is one of my favorite characters, and I feel like that's probably why I'm passionate about it, because I really want him to get like the good, like full-blown story arc that character actually needs, instead of shoehorning him into a movie that's also introducing the Fantastic Four. Silver Surfer is a big dynamic character with lots of emotions, lots of feelings, and they need to have more time to flesh him out. Yeah, and Galactus goes hand in hand with him.
And I don't know everywhere where they're going with I'm not an expert on the comic runs, but my understanding is there's reason that Doctor Doom would be a useful character to introduce prior to doing Secret Wars.
Yes, absolutely. Because Doctor Doom is basically, he's always after someone else's powers. In the comics, he's gone after trying to steal the Silver Surfer's powers, which is why they made him do that in the 07 movie. In the comics, the character that is creating the Secret Wars, the Beyonder, in the storyline, Doctor Doom does try to steal his powers as well, seeing that the Beyonder is like essentially God. And so Doctor Doom wants his power. So very likely that will probably be a thing in the movie as well. So anyways, last thing real quick before we call it a night, let's catch up on a little bit of the strike stuff. So last week we talked about that the WGA, the Writers Guild, was going to be going back to the negotiating table with the studios on Friday. Apparently they went to the table with the studios on Friday and nothing happened. They're just like, yep, we know where the negotiating table is. We'll come back to this later. Which I feel like is kind of what we were expecting. There was no way that the studios were finally going to be like, okay, we'll sit down and start negotiations, and just everything just runs without a hitch. So it's very likely still going to be some more time before they're able to fully commit to actual negotiations. Unfortunately, that's I hate that, because I mean that means a lot of movies are stalled just from the writing point of view. The writers, of course, aren't getting paid for stuff that they've written. Just pay your people. And then, of course, there's still also the strike with the actors as well with SAG. So this last week we were talking about a lot of movies that are being delayed and being postponed because of it. I don't recall if there's been any major ones also announced over this past week.
I haven't heard about any official delays, just a little more chatter of this might move, and if this will this keep this date. I've heard more of that, but that's the same stuff. And given that the negotiations didn't go anywhere, I would expect. Well, so actually, there weren't official delays, but Disney somewhere had a release schedule that I believe went out today that didn't have release dates for Echo or Deadpool 3. Those are the two that I read about, but I didn't know the specifics. But it was like, this isn't confirmed delayed, but it feels like we're preparing for some delays.
Yeah, I expect to hear a lot more probably within the next month, because by the time we get within like the end of summer is when everyone's really going to be focusing on, we're going to start getting into Oscar movie release season. And that's what's going to be, I think, very, very crucial on how that's going to. Also, really curious how the Oscars are going to go this next year. That's going to be a big cluster F. So,
whew.
And then the big story that popped up this week was that the Marvel visual effects team, which is like roughly about 52 visual effects workers, have all filed with I can't remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but like that was IATSE. It's basically the conglomerate that represents the unions of the entertainment. So the ones that help represent like the SAG and the WGA. The VFX for Marvel specifically are looking at unionizing, because we've heard of the amount of stress and pressure that they're put in, how like they're given very little time to quickly produce visual effects shots as quickly as possible. Over the past year, we've seen like the head of the VFX for Marvel, Victoria Alonso, was let go, mainly because she was working on a competing movie at the time. But we don't know if maybe there was something else behind the scenes that we just, the casual folk, are not privy to.
Seemed like there was several ingredients. Even of why would she go and do this thing that clearly would ruffle feathers if everything was great, seemed like there was some trouble a brewing.
Yeah. What I think is funny about that now is now I go back, like I rewatch like Marvel movies like all the time. I'm always putting on like Infinity War or Endgame or Civil War or something in the background while I'm working on something else. And I've noticed almost every single one of those movies, every time Victoria Alonso's name pops up, I'm like, man, she was one of the ones who was like a mainstay throughout the entire MCU. And it sucks that they lost her for that.
Yeah, I bought the official behind the scenes book that they put out about a year ago. And it's like this big, thick book telling the history of the MCU. And her name is all over that book.
Yeah. Like this. So, yeah, the VFX are going on strike. Well, they're forming a union to potentially go on strike. But, yeah, Marvel CGI has been lacking lately. I know mainly the one everyone like usually points to is MODOK in Quantumania. Just
what
was a little too weird.
Yeah, very weird looking.
And I love MODOK. I love the character of MODOK. And I think that he has the potential at this point in the MCU to be done exactly how he looks in the comics with that goofy look, but I don't think they captured the visual effects for him as well as they could have.
Well, I mean, and the idea of a good visual effect is that it looks believable.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a way to perhaps do this big head with little legs sticking out of it that would work. But what they did felt like they just stretched Corey Stoll's face in a box. And it's like, this is not right. It doesn't play as real. But there's been just so many things since they started cranking out way too much stuff.
Yeah. Especially when like the Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
They just added more on the plate for everything Marvel has to do.
And so the big, chatter behind the scenes of the problem with what's going on is that Disney or Marvel is just infamous for telling them to go do something. They do it, then they scrap it. Now do this, and they just keep changing it. And so instead of having a clear vision, clear idea of what we want to do before we start filming, they're reinventing everything all the way up until the last minute with reshoots, rewrites, and then the last piece on all of that, VFX. And so because of that, everything's a rush job, despite spending $1 zillion, despite having all this money and these huge budgets. You watch it and you go, what? I mean, the one that just stuck out to me so much, rewatched all the Transformers movies leading up to Rise of the Beasts. And every single one of those terrible Michael Bay Transformers movies look fantastic. The worst of those Michael Bay movies, and they get horrible, they still look fantastic.
I didn't watch that Last Night one or whatever that was with Anthony Hopkins. I didn't watch that one.
It goes for it. Somehow the Decepticons play into World War II. Now there's a plot point. But like you're watching Dark of the Moon, 12 years old, 13 years old, whatever it is, and they're blowing up Chicago, and they're sliding down buildings, and they're flying between buildings that are collapsing, and all of it looks absolutely real. And then you watch Black Widow, and they've got Skybase falling out of the sky. They're sliding down buildings as they're exploding, and it looks cartoonish. It looks like a video game. And you go, Michael Bay knows how, like, doesn't know how to tell a compelling story anymore. Well, I mean, actually, he does. He just, for some reason, chose not to with the Transformers movies. I think still thought Ambulance and
or
all
the
the stuff
Ninja,
he did.
the Ninja Turtles movies.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, when he does like his non-franchise stuff, it's like, okay, yeah, he can still tell a story. He's got his quirks, but and then you watch his franchise stuff. What are you doing, man? But like, he can do ridiculous stuff, and it looks believable. And MCU makes everything look unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm happy that like they're starting to move forward to something like that, because I mean, you could sit here as an employee of someone and just sit there and say like, hey, I'm not treated fairly, but unless everyone else agrees with you, like in the past, like long time ago, I have been the type of person that would be like, hey, let's all find out, like, how much are we all getting paid per hour? Because I have a feeling this is unfair. We know like new people are being hired and they're being paid at a higher rate than we currently are. Especially when you get a new person. Like I had one job where we got a new person in who didn't do jack. All they did was just stand around all day. And the rest of us who are sitting there working our butts off, we're all like, we're getting paid less than this person. So I have been the type of person to be like, let's get this figured out. But everyone is like, well, I don't want to share my pay, or we're told that we're not supposed to. And even though you can, but unless everyone like just actually understands that concept and all gets on board, everyone is left high and dry. And I think that's like what employers in general typically like to have with their employees, and especially in this case, Marvel, Disney, especially because we're seeing like how Disney is so willing and eager to negotiate with the writers or the actors guilds. Please don't unionize is what they're probably looking at right now. But I like the fact that they are pushing forward for the betterment of the employees, because I mean they do a lot of good work. Those movies are making millions, if not billions, in 3 days apparently. And they deserve to get paid for that hard work. So yeah, go support them.
And reasonable working conditions. This book, Burn It Down. That's one of the things they talk about, is that part of the problem with the industry is that it's so competitive that there's always someone else willing to do the work for less.
Yeah.
And so then besides these people that have reached a category to where they actually have something unique to offer, well, you're working on a Marvel movie. You don't want to animate the next billion-dollar film? Sure. Well, I'll find someone else then. There's always someone else that will work the insane hours, that will do 1,000 revisions, and there's no pushback against them for treating people terribly. And that's kind of the problem with Hollywood, and has been the problem with Hollywood, is that it's just so competitive. There's always someone willing to do whatever, put up with the crap. And that's almost the, what do they call that? Where they have classes in your freshman year of college that are intended just to weed people out. And that's almost the nature of, you go to Hollywood and they just burn you excessively at the beginning, just to weed people out just because they can. There's always more people willing to try.
I mean, that's like that website Fiverr that you could go and have someone do graphic designs for like $20 or $10 or $5. Like that's the whole like structure of how that website exists. And then I've also mentioned before, I think like a couple of weeks ago, I'm comparing this to, there's a lot of times there's people who love working on visual effects. That's their life. That's their passion, is working on these. And what's happening is the studio industries look at it like, well, this is something you enjoy doing. So part of your compensation is that you're getting to enjoy your job. For example, like here in Austin, we have, I believe, EA Games and I guess what used to be known as Blizzard Entertainment. I don't know if it still is, but both of them were here. And I had friends that worked for those companies as video game testers. Video game testers got paid peanuts because the benefit to having that job is you're playing video games for 8 hours a day. Why would we pay you a full, easy to live on wage when all you're doing is playing video games all day? I don't get paid to play video games all day. I'm not on Twitch like my brother is. Twitch.tv/ChrisAdamsMLP. But yeah, I don't get paid for that. So why would they shell out even more money? My enjoyment is I get to come to work and play video games. So something like that, I believe, is what they're trying to do, which is going to kill that passion. It's going to cause more decreased mental health, and it's going to burn people out that they're just getting paid very little for something that they love doing, and that's going to affect their work. And we're going to see that when they stretch Corey Stoll's face out over MODOK. So yeah, anyways, I hope that works out well for them. I would love to see a return back to like good Marvel CGI visual effects that they did.
Yeah, I mean, I think almost all of these things we're seeing right now, I think they all kind of come together. They're all tied to the same stuff, which is, actors and writers are striking because of streaming. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons VFX quality is dropping is because every major IP, every streaming service is now trying to crank out premium movie quality TV shows. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden you have all the same number of blockbusters coming out that were always coming out. Plus you have House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings, Ring Power, 17 Marvel TV shows. What do we got? Star Wars. That we've got Last of Us, Halo. I mean, just kind of going down the list of just like show after show after show where they're just, and we didn't suddenly have twice as many VFX artists that are top tier. We didn't suddenly have all of this, but and so they're throwing money at things, but they're just cranking too many things out that you're just stretching everyone too thin. You're asking too much of too few people.
Yeah.
So you're trying to think about like the how talented you have to be able to create the VFX that these people are creating. You know, we do Photoshop, we do a little bit of stuff like oh yeah, I know a little bit of stuff. How much more they know and what they're doing at such a high level. There's only so many people that have that skill set to be awesome at VFX.
Wait, you mean to tell me that you're not actually standing here with the Avengers in this shot for the thumbnail? What? No. So, anyways, I believe that's going to do it for tonight. Sean, you are doing a lot of great stuff on your channel. I do want to give you kudos real quick. You have done something lately that is super interesting in it. I very much encourage, if anyone has not seen it yet, go over to Sean's YouTube channel. Links and stuff are down below in the description. You did the reading the bad takes while eating the hot wings. Oh my God, that was so much fun. Yeah. I love hot ones. I've met Sean Evans, talked to him briefly. We've done something similar on Tagline like a year ago or so. We were doing it with movie trivia, that if you get an answer wrong, you have to eat a progressively hotter wing. Yeah. I went and bought like the bomb, the bomb that they use on hot ones, which is not a fun hot sauce at all.
No.
I think I actually still have it. I think it's sitting in our kitchen, and I don't know how long it's good for, but it's probably good for forever, given all the peppers and chemicals and vinegar and stuff in it. But yeah, that was super entertaining, and I can't wait to see you do more of those.
Yeah,
So,
though I don't know the exact date of when we're filming the next one, but there's a couple of different opportunities in September for when I might film them. Both at GalaxyCon in Austin. There's a chance we'll do one live at GalaxyCon, and I don't even know. I don't know. So I'm hoping that plays out, and then I'm pretty sure my buddy Cody Leach wants to do one with me. And he's going to be in town for Fantastic Fest. So both of those, if either one of them happen, I want them to do them as a as well. If it's a GalaxyCon, of course, that's a live event. But then Cody Leach too. I want to do it as a live event, so that I invite to the public people to show up to them. So I don't have a date or information on that, but that is absolutely something I'm looking to do. And so, if you were to come out for one of those, that would be very fun.
Nolan used that sauce for the Trinity test. I mean, that sauce is no joke. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we did two different da bombs in that video. Well, in the recording, we did two different versions of it. The second one was a second video on my second channel, but we actually did 11 wings in the main video. We only did 10 of them, but we did two different versions of da bomb, and that was How was the next day? Without going into detail, how was your next day? It actually wasn't as bad as I was expecting. Like I planned in advance, like I can't have anything planned the next day.
We put a stack of books in the bathroom. And...
Yeah, I planned it out to make it nice and simple. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. And I think some of that is that I had been working to build up to it. I was like trying to make sure, like, can I do this? Like if I try and go through all these sauces, like I know it'll be bad, but will it be so bad that we can't, is the film useless? And that's actually why we did 11 wings and I cut one of them off, because it did just descended into absolute chaos by that point in time of just like us sitting there sweating, like staring at the sky. We're drinking so much milk that we're like, that's why we got like both of us ended up vomiting by the end of it, but it's because we'd been drinking milk for 30 minutes straight. Yeah. And milk and Diet Pepsi was my drink of choice for the day, which, as it turns out, chugging that Diet Pepsi and milk for 30 minutes straight while eating really hot food, it's great entertainment, also awful.
But you also really nailed that impression of Reagan from The Exorcist, didn't you? Just projectile, yeah. Milk will do that to you.
Yeah. That clip of me vomiting is actually from the 11th wing. I just wanted to make sure it was in there. So if you actually watch the cut of what's going on at the table, the stuff on the table keeps changing because I was just trying to have something that flowed and was entertaining, but it was just so much chaos at the end that I was like, I don't know what to do with this because we can't say a sentence.
Yeah.
But all that to say, yeah, we absolutely there's probably will be two of those done live in Austin. Nice. I mean, I've even thought about renting out. Actually, Zach, there's a chance I might rent a facility from him for one of the recordings. I actually talked to him I spoke at a live event and he was at it. So I talked to him a little bit about it. I don't know if that'll happen, but there's a chance I might even rent out like a big space from him to do that.
For those who don't know, Zach is a mutual friend of both me and my brother and Sean Chandler. We just by happenstance, we happen to know the same person and
discovered through Facebook. Look a guy up. I was doing a live event. Mutual friends. Like, wait, I know those guys. It's pretty wild.
Both me and my brother lived with Zach for a time, so yeah, we are friends with him.
So there's a chance one of these live events that we can have all four of us in the same place.
That'd be interesting. More details on that to come. What else would you like to plug as we're ending the show here?
I just, in general, check out Sean Chandler Talks About, or I have a second channel, Sean Chandler Plus, where I clip out segments from live streams like this one, talking about more topical things. Main channels like movie reviews, rankings. Second channel is more kind of off the cuff, this type of stuff that lets personality come out a little bit more.
Cool. I will also quickly throw in before everyone starts checking out, since we're ending the show. Again, my brother's birthday is this weekend. If you are familiar with my brother, who's my typical co-host, on this show. He does do live streaming. He plays video games primarily like Pokemon and Fortnite over on his Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ChrisAdamsMLP. He will be live streaming for his birthday this Saturday, the 12th. So go check that out. Go follow him if you don't already. He does a lot of fun stuff over there. As for this channel, again, if you are part of our Patreon, next Wednesday we'll be doing our monthly watch along. If you're at the $5 tier, we will be watching Nacho Libre after Tagline. And then Wednesday the 30th, after the Tagline, we will be doing our movie trivia hangout. And then also August 25th is the marquee. That's going to be my brother's picks of movies. Again, hop on at least the $1 tier on the Patreon. You can get on our Discord and see the list of movies we're ranking. Go watch those, fill in any gaps in your movie knowledge that you haven't gotten yet, and come join us for that live stream so you can vote live in the chat and have your vote count towards where these movies are positioned in our tier ranking. Anyways, that is going to do it for tonight. Sean, thank you so much for filling in tonight. That was great having you on here. Always a blast to talk about movies way too much with you. So
thanks
do
for
this
having
again
me.
Sometime.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Anyways, thank y'all. Make sure, I forgot the other plugs. Make sure you follow us at The Cinefanatics on Twitter and Instagram. Also, you can follow me at Robert Adams MLP, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Letterboxd. And yeah, that is going to be it. So thank y'all for watching. We very much appreciate all of y'all being here. We will see y'all next week. Good night, everyone.